Okay, this is my first time going live, but I wanted to record a video and I just couldn't. I didn't want to have to record and then save and then re-upload. But I just saw the film Minari, and if you guys haven't seen it and you are Asian American, you need to see it because it was just so, that film uncomfortably hit so close to home. And it was like um this pit in your stomach the entire time, and it was so emotional, but yet you didn't cry, or I didn't cry about it, because I think I haven't come to realization and come to terms with my identity being a first generation Asian American immigrant. And there's a part of me that I am this Asian American immigrant, and then there's a part of me that tries to kind of escape from it, or escape from the pressure or the stereotypes of what it is, right? And now I realize that, a lot of me is that Asian American story, and I don't think people quite understand. Like, nobody can quite understand what it's like to be a first generation immigrant unless they have been in that themselves. And it's the same thing with anything in life. Like, nobody can quite understand until you've gone through that experience. Like, no one can understand what it's like to be a black man, like walking down the street, like I would never understand that, and I never will. But maybe I can try to put myself in their shoes, or try to ask questions, or at least listen to their story so I can kind of get a sense, maybe 30% sense of what they have to go through, right? But I don't think anyone can truly understand you and the stuff you've gone through until you've been through it. And it's like the same thing with motherhood and giving birth. Like, nobody can quite understand what it's like being a mom. And this is a whole nother topic I can go through. But, before being a mom, I thought I kind of knew what it was. And I had no idea the amount of anxiety that came with being a mom, the amount of worry, the amount of just, it's constant worry. And I'm just a very, very anxious person. But I never understood that until I became a mom. And nobody can understand what it's like being a business owner. Like, I don't think people quite understand this constant, like, it's like a tarp over your head at all times of stress. There's always things that come up and always problems that you have to solve. And the immigrant experience, the being a new mom, and the business owner, that I think are three fundamental identities of myself that really, really make me who I am. And I didn't realize that it was so important to me, especially that immigrant story. Like, I didn't really realize how important it was to me until I became a mom, really, because I realized that's really who I am. Like, all my work ethic, all my attitudes, all my behaviors is because I'm a first generation immigrant. And this first generation immigrant, as a first generation immigrant, you always think like you can do anything, you can achieve the American dream, you can live whatever you want. And I so badly want for my daughter to feel that. I want her to feel that first generation immigrant fire in her. But I know she probably will never be able to understand it, because she won't be through it. And it almost makes me sad that she won't have gone through that, because I think it really shaped me, and it shaped a lot of how I view the world. It's definitely shaped my work ethic and ambition. And I don't know, it's like a part of that in me that was so important is going to be lost in her. It's not, how do I put it? It's not like culture where it's like Chinese culture, celebrate Chinese New Year, eat Chinese food, and you can pass that along generations. This first generation immigrant experience is only here it's like only in your generation. You can't like pass it on unless, she immigrates somewhere else or whatever, but even then, just starting out with nothing and sacrificing and suffering your whole life to have your family be in a better place, she will never experience that, and I am heartbroken. Like, I am heartbroken about it. And it's funny because even before now, at the age of 32, it was something I wanted to run away from because I felt like that hindered me, that being this immigrant hindered me from being more successful, from being truly who I wanted to be. I felt like even starting my YouTube channel, I had to fight through so much in order to even get my channel off the ground. Like, it was just so, so, so hard for me. And to start my business, I had to fight through so much. And even now when I run business, like money, like spending money in the six figures, right, to run a business that's in the seven figures, I do that constantly. And to think of myself growing up in someone's basement, not having any clothes, being given clothes from people who went to church or churchgoers, and going to McDonald's getting a Happy Meal was like the delicacy. So going from that mindset to growing this business to even more and more and more has fucked up my mind so much. And I don't think people understand that, because it's like this whole nother game you're playing, and you have to like change the way your mind operates. And it's like so hard to change your brain, what you're comfortable with, what you grew up with. Like, you can't, it's people fight against it all the time. This is why there's so much childhood trauma that shows up in later adulthood, because people cannot reconfigure their minds when they're older. And that is so hard. And so I ran away from that identity because I felt like being so poor and being blah, 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 and being so risk averse and being so negative, which were characteristics you needed to be as a first generation immigrant to survive in this country. I kind of resented that part of myself, because to be an entrepreneur, you need to be so positive. You need to, it's constant positivity. It's constant risk taking. It's constant spending a lot of money on shit that's not going to end up working, and constant optimism to a fault of delusion. So I don't know. I just felt, and also just like, I feel like Asian people, like especially Asian immigrants, we're not very good at selling stuff. We're like not the salespeople. It's usually the white men in the plaid shirts with the khakis who are like good salespeople, because they're more relatable. They have more social skills. Whereas like Asians were good at like taking tests and like working really hard and following the rules, but we miss that personal level. And I resented that because I don't think I'm a very personal person. And I'm not warm. I'm not charismatic. I'm not blah, blah, blah. And I wish I were, because I think I would be a better business person, right? So a lot of me had resented my Asian American roots because I didn't see a lot of Asians in business, and I didn't see a lot of Asian American women in business. Now I see a lot more, which has been amazing, but I did resent that in my life. But now I've seen it's like such a big part of who I am. And I'm just sad that I'm not going to be able to give that experience to my daughter, because it has shaped who I am. And, I was thinking about it after watching the film, like all the parts I didn't like about, how my parents raised me and Asian parenting and first generation immigrant. I feel like, the tiger parenting, the always adherence to the rules, adherence to authority, acquiescing to authority, all of that. I felt like resentful of it because I wanted to be more brave. I wanted to be more like American in the sense I wanted to be more loud, almost like obnoxious, almost more not political, but more outspoken, more personable, more of that, which I feel like Asian Americans are not known for. So I was resentful because I felt like I lacked those skills because I felt like my parents did not have those, which is true. But on the flip side, being in their shoes, I mean, what else can you do? As a minority trying to survive in this world, the whole notion was you have to prove that you're worthy by succeeding and doing a really good job, at your school, whatever, and being obedient and docile to society so that you're not seen as a was it nuisance. You're not being seen as a bother, and that's what they had to do, and I don't blame them one bit. But yeah, it's this identity that I struggle with constantly. And I think now I embrace that part of me so much more. I embrace this Chinese part of me so much more. I embrace this Asianness, this mentality so much more. And I'm not resenting it as much, even though there are certain things I don't like about Asian culture. I don't like about you know, Asian culture, Asian whatever personalities, I don't know. But there's also things I don't like about white culture, white personalities. And again, I'm generalizing, but I could do a whole nother video on that. I could probably do it right now. But I think I've come to terms with I don't blame anybody for anything. I probably would have done that in my shoes, and I just feel like it's how do I put it? Any kind of first generation immigrant, whether you came on the Mayflower, you came on a boat, or you came on a plane, I think they go through and they suffer through so much. And I almost feel like guilty that my generation, the second generation, the third generation won't ever experience that kind of struggle and pain. And so they'll lose that part of it, because they don't know that story. So I don't know if there's like a way I can take that story and bottle it up. I think Isaac Lee Chung did a great job of having his story come into film, right? So it somehow kind of lives on forever. And although the future generations will never quite truly understand you, because they to understand someone is to really walk them out in their shoes, and they will never have that experience. They can at least hear it and see it, and maybe in those 2 hours get a sense of what it's like to live that kind of life. But yeah, watch the film. It's amazing.